Good to see you today. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about the Harvest Host program. Now, what is that? That's the first thing you're going to ask. Well, it's a camping program. It's a membership fee, and there's over 800 locations around the United States. For this fee, you can stay at any of these for free one night and visit their facilities. There's only a few restrictions. One, you have to be fully self-contained. That means your RV, it cannot be a tent, it has to be some type of RV. You have your water supply, your cooking, and your restroom facilities all contained within the vehicle. And then you are automatically eligible to become a member. What do you get for this? Well, these are all, I call them destinations. It's a one-night boondocking location, but unlike a Walmart's or something like that, there is a destination there. There's over 800 of them in the United States. I've currently stayed at 5. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But as you travel, you can locate these. You call them the day before, make sure they got room, and they put you on the list, and you stay there the next day. There's usually a tour or a demonstration or something. You'll find out as I describe a couple of the ones that I've been to, just what you can do with it. I find it's very, very enjoyable to have a destination and something to do when you get there, when you're just traveling across country or around your region and you just want to stop for the night. I've enjoyed it. Let me be very clear, I paid for my membership. I did get a little discount because they had a special. Currently, the memberships are $79 if I'm not mistaken. They have a little higher priced one that includes staying at golf courses. I'm not a golfer, so golf courses are not in my interest, so I did not subscribe to the higher level unit. There's over 800, as I mentioned, and these are things like museums, farms, distilleries, wineries, different things like that. And you'll see I've stayed at several different ones and had different experiences, but all positive at each one. I wanted to test the boondocking capabilities of my Road Trek van. So I planned a little 4-day trip, and in that 4-day trip, I was going to travel to 2 Harvest Host programs. I'd already joined it. You figure if you paid $65, $75 at that time, now it's $80 for a 1-year membership. If you stay at a campground 2 nights, you're pretty well paid for this. So I almost, realistically got my compensation covered for the first 2-night stay. And on this trip, I went to 2 different locations, both in South Carolina. The first one was the Gypsy Wind Farm. And it's exactly what it is. It's a small family-run farm, primarily goats and pigs. I went there. I checked in. They took me on a little, they actually had some electricity, so they offered me electric sight if I wanted it. But I was trying to boondock anyway, so I said I wanted to go back out in the woods somewhere. So they took me around the farm. I picked a spot. They brought me back out, and I drove the van back there and parked. Later on, they came down and took me on a tour of the farm itself, which was very interesting. And stopped and saw the different pens where the animals were, and they described the operation to me, and it was informative. At the end of the tour, we stopped up at the little farm store. And one of the things with all the Harvest Host sites, the program does suggest that you try to spend a few dollars at their location, because that's part of why they join. They have no compensation either, other than additional people coming and spending money at their location. So we went up to the store. I bought some pork chops, and I bought some sausage. And let me tell you, the pork chops were excellent, superb, right from the pigs there on the farm. The hosts were very gracious, as I found them all to be. So that was Gypsy Wind Farms. The next day, I got up early. We packed up me, Maggie, and the van, and we headed out across South Carolina to our next destination, which was Chattooga, very difficult to pronounce, Chattooga Bell Farms. And it's a farm and distillery. So I thought, well, the distillery would be nice. So we drove by the farm, went to the distillery, checked in, and they had a tasting inside. I tasted some of their wares. I picked up 2 bottles. I picked up a bottle of Carolina Spice Whiskey for my daughter, and I picked up a bottle of their bourbon for a friend of mine who likes bourbon and often invites me over for dinner, so it was a gift for him. So I got a couple gifts out of that, and the next morning before I left, they took me on a tour of the actual operating distillery. I was able to camp boondock right up on a little ridge overlooking the orchards. It was a beautiful sight and very calm and peaceful. The next day I went on to a state park and then came on home. So 2 experiences in, both of them very positive, and I had no regrets about it at all. And I basically had already accomplished the fact of getting my money's worth for the program for the year. In October, I made a trip to Texas, and on the way going from San Marcos up to Dallas to see my daughter, we stopped at a Harvest Host location, which was the Walker, let me get this right, Walker Honey Farm and Dancing Bee Winery. So they basically, they raise bees, they get the honey, they produce a wine which is called mead, M-E-A-D. And this wine is made with the sugar that's fermented for this wine is made from the honey, from the bees. They had different flavors of this. Again, I stayed there right in the parking lot of the winery and got a tour. I also got a tasting, and I tasted several different varieties of the mead, and I ended up buying 6 bottles, basically gifts again. So I've been giving them away. I gave one to my daughter-in-law, and I gave one to the neighbor, and I gave another one to a friend of mine, and I've taken a couple bottles up to Michigan at Thanksgiving. Again, very peaceful at night. It was out of the way, and it was a destination. When we left our daughters, I lined up 2 different Harvest Hosts that were on the route coming back. The first one was the Chenault Aviation and Military Museum, which I didn't even know existed. Stopped there, stayed in their parking lot. Very nice little museum. Claire Chenault, for those who may not know, was the leader of the Flying Tigers in China in World War II. It was a very nicely done little museum, very organized. Picked up a coffee mug there and another little trinket and made a donation to the museum just because I was so impressed with it. Moving on down the road, we went to an alpaca farm in Mississippi. And this was a small, again, family-owned farm. They raised alpacas. They also had a couple miniature donkeys. They said park anywhere on the property you want, so we picked a spot. It turned out to be a rainy day, so it was not the best time to be visiting a farm. But we went out and saw the alpacas. The miniature donkeys had come out later in the day, and Maggie and I took a walk over there, and she liked the alpacas, not too fond of the donkeys. Later I went into the store, and the lady who runs the place gave me a little demonstration on how they get the wool from the alpacas and how they actually set up the threads and spin it into yarn. And they had a lot of alpaca products there, of which I bought something. I bought an alpaca rug. And this is something that I basically bought. It's just perfect size for Maggie for a bed, so we keep it in the computer room as a bed for Maggie. And it is so soft. And again, another great experience. So that's 5 different Harvest Host locations I've stopped at, and extremely impressed with all of them. Did not have a bad experience at any of them, and I'm looking forward to going to more. Now you wonder, how do you find these? Well, you get an app. There's also a website, but you can have an app on your phone, which is what I use. And when I'm traveling, I'll give you an example of Lisa's. I was in Dallas area. I'm heading across I-20, so I just put that in as a route on the application, and it showed me all the Harvest Host locations that were near the route. And that's how I found the 2 that I visited there. So they provide the app. You got access to the website. They're constantly adding new ones, so it's a good program. I think it's a lot better than camping at a Walmart, unless you just need to stop and go. I try to set it up when I go to these that I get in midday, short drive, and then I can actually visit and see the thing. And they teach you a lot about their products or their operation, which is very informative. Makes it a nice stop, and then you get a nice quiet boondocking night at a different location that's not a parking lot like a Walmart. I don't think you can beat it for the price. As I say, it's $79 now. If they offer discounts at different times, you might be able to get a little cheaper. But I fully endorse this. I think it's great. Not for everybody, but it's great for me. It's a lot better than stopping in a campground and just sitting there at a campsite for one night and then continuing on early the next morning, because we get to do something, see something, and they've all been very gracious with the dog. There are a few that will not allow pets, and you can, when you look them up on the website, it'll tell you what size rigs they can accept, how many spots they have, whether they have any facilities available, and they'll also tell you whether things like pets are welcome. There's a couple that have said no pets, so I've obviously avoided those. Anyway, if you've got any questions, ask them down below. I will put a link to the website where you can get more information if you choose. And hopefully you got a little something out of the video, and you'll at least give them a look and see what they have to offer if you're camping in a self-contained RV and can boondock for one night. Thanks a lot for listening. If you get a chance, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And if you got any questions, please ask them. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Have a great day.